it is time to do the thoughts on Troubadour. So, hi YouTube! I'm really new at doing this kind of thing. You guys are getting the stream treatment right now. To be honest, this is not going to be super organized. I'm just going to info dump, I think, a lot of the things that I've been learning while I was testing out this class. So, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and stuff, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. I guess, obligatory disclaimer, obviously this is a beta, so a lot of things are subject to change once it actually comes out live, and probably when that happens, I'll create an actual more organized YouTube video that I normally do. And that'll have all of the information distilled in a much more organized way, and I'll have on the fancy stuff in the background with all the overlays and pop-ups and all that kind of stuff. But for now, yeah, we're just gonna get into it. So, thoughts so far, I'm just gonna go ahead and just like start with a summary. I think this class is really strong. I think in terms of just generic support ability, there is no way that this class is not going to be good. It has insanely good Boon uptime, I think, on all of the things that a support really needs. So things like its decision of quickness or alacrity. So in this case, this class does alacrity. It has really good production uptime. It has really good might and fury uptime. It has really good swiftness uptime. Actually, that's kind of a big one that I'll talk about a little bit more in the future. It has like 100% regen uptime, all of like the kind of good stuff, right, that you want a support to have. And then on top of that, it has really, really good utility. So it has, I think, the biggest utility that's absolutely crazy. I'm reasonably certain this is not going to make it into the game, is the elite skill gives distortion to your entire subgroup. And it's on roughly about a 60-second cooldown with alacrity, a little bit less actually. This seems really strong. So again, kind of a disclaimer here. If for people that played Chrono way back in the day, there was actually a form of distortion here where you had to take blurred inscriptions and then you tied that to your signets. They have since removed that from the game, and it's been out of the game for many years now. They are now essentially adding it back in the form of this class. And I want to really emphasize how insanely powerful distortion share is, because I think it's one of the things that people don't really actually understand. They just think, oh, like, okay, it's only like a 2-second window. Like, how big of a deal is that? I'm obviously talking primarily from the point of view of a PvE aspect. So I'm not really talking about PvP or War vs. World right now. I'm specifically talking about PvE. This can single-handedly negate most of the really dangerous mechanics that happens all throughout raids, strike missions, and fractals. This is crazy. 2-second cooldown is very, or sorry, not 2-second cooldown. 2-second duration is very forgiving. The old distort share was only 1 second. And you might think, oh, 1 to 2 seconds is not that big of a deal, but that's a 100% increase, right? Like that you're literally doubling the amount of time that you have the distortion, which makes it 1, significantly easier to use, and 2, you can catch multiple mechanics with it. I'll give you a couple of examples. The one that I've been using as a huge example is Temple of Febe CM, or what a lot of people call Sarah CM. One of the very dangerous mechanics in that fight, especially when you're progressing the fight for the first time and you're not familiar and you're not experienced with fight, is the Despair AoE drops. If you don't dodge at the right time, that mechanic will kill you. It will 100% just full 100 to 0 kill you all the way down, and you can't res, right? In like raids and strike missions and stuff. And then on top of that, right, is that if you wanted to bring in invulnerability to deal with that mechanic, which is one of the reasons why Virtuoso is so popular on that encounter, you can only give it to yourself. Now, you can imagine if you have 2 Troubadours, 1 for each subgroup, you can completely negate the mechanic that causes a lot of groups to wipe. That's only one example out of many. I can go through like, you know, Harvest Temple. I can go through the other raids and stuff that exist in the game. There's a lot of examples. Distortion share is very powerful. So I'm kind of excited to try this out this week, just in raids, see how effective it is and stuff. But my gut instinct is, wow, they added distortion share back. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, that's that. You know, hold on, let me pull up my notes really quick. This is like really scuffed this up. I'm gonna pull it off to the side so I don't spoil everything right away. I have like thoughts. If you were on the stream, you probably already saw this. So, okay, now I wanna go through my thoughts, I think, on each individual, I guess, skill. Actually, wait, before that, because people are probably here thinking like, oh, why is this girl yapping so much? Let me tell you what I would suggest the build to be, because I think that's what most people are here for. So, the utility skills and everything you can kind of see already here, and then these are the traits that I have been running. For gear, I'm running full 100% minstrels with Rune of the Monk, and then weapons with transference. And I guess I have paralyzation on right now. This is just, I was testing CC things earlier, but for your other option, you can do anything. You can do concentration if you want to have better boon duration uptime, especially if you're running minstrels, because minstrels doesn't have that much concentration baked into the stat. You could also do water if you just wanted like a little bit more healing. There's a ton of options for you. So for now, I'm just gonna do concentration just because that'll make things a little bit easier. And another thing to keep in mind, because I've been asked this many times, is you might be thinking, oh, you're only at 70% boon duration. Isn't that like super low? One of the interactions that is core essentially to Mesmer is actually the chaos trait. This will give you concentration when you're under the effects of regeneration. So obviously as a support, especially a healing support, you're gonna want 100% regeneration uptime. So you can see when I use this, it jumps up to about 86%. So you can get even more if you wanted to. You can put on like, you know, water runes or something here instead. It's up to you. I think, again, many things are subject to change. This is just kind of like a baseline for now. Okay, now that you guys have the build, feel free to run around and try that out. Now I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on each individual skill. So just kind of going in order between them. So we're gonna start with Tail of the Soulkeeper. I've been calling this Tail of the Cat because it's a cat icon. This one actually, I have a lot of thoughts. This is a great one to start with. So the summary TLDR is that I think this is gonna be very comfortable to have. I think in most situations, I will take this. However, mathematically speaking, it's technically not necessary. And the reason is because you can keep up 100% might, fury, and alacrity uptime without this skill. And I'll just go over how to do that really quick. So first things first is your Rifle 3. So even now on Heal Chrono, which is the one that's actually live in the game, that's a very popular build, you can keep up 100% might and fury uptime with this skill alone. This one skill alone. And the way it works is that when you drop this AoE on the floor, once it detonates, it gives you the boons. And the thing is here, these boons last for about 15 seconds more, again, because I don't have on regen right now, so it'll last for more than 15 seconds, but you'll notice that the cooldown for this is 12 seconds. So that means no matter what, you're casting the skill faster than the boons can drop off, meaning that eventually you will ramp to 25 stacks of might without any other skill. But there's even on Heal Chrono, and this is also true for Troubadour as well, your F1 and your F3 also give might and fury. So that covers like essentially might and fury, right? So you mathematically don't really need this one. And if you do the same thing, I was testing it a little bit here with your F4 in combination with this trait will keep up 100% alacrity uptime, and you can extend it with this. So then you might be thinking, okay, well, you just went through all the math. Why do you take this skill? So two big reasons. One is that it's comfortable, right? It's like people are not going to be on group 100% of the time. You can see that this AoE of this skill is quite small. So if you like misplace it or something because you have to run out of the way to do a different mechanic, or if people have to like, you know, drop off like puddles or something like that, and you know, they're not on the group the entire time, that means that this is, I would say, kind of a little bit less comfortable, and this now makes it a little bit more comfortable to the point where you really don't need to think about it. Earlier when I was testing on the golem, which I'm happy to do again, probably at the end of this whole segment, I can show you, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just mashing buttons, roughly getting 2 to 3 clone shatters off, just, you know, vibing, and we're like, you know, vibe coding, that kind of thing. And I have 100% uptime of all boons that are important. And I think that is in part because of this skill. So basically, TLDR, math-wise, you technically don't need this. But comfort-wise, I would recommend it. So yeah. All right, okay, so that's this one. Second one is Tail of the, I've been calling this Tail of the Swiftness because that's what this skill is. This one, okay. Disclaimer here, okay? So this is my biases that are gonna show. I'm sure other people will math things out as well. My bias is that I am determined to make this skill work. Why? Because before this, again, on Heal, I'm using Heal Chrono as kind of like the primary comparison point here. Chrono did not have a reliable source of swiftness. You could technically do Focus 4, but Focus 4 not only requires people to kind of like jiggle back and forth on top of it, but usually you would be camping your rifle because rifle is just a much more powerful weapon set for support Mesmer, right? So that means that in order to patch in a lot of swiftness, people would very often take Relic of Febe. So this is like, I would say, probably the most highly recommended relic for Heal Chrono. And okay, real talk, I just find it to be a little bit of a waste. I feel like relics are so powerful, right? Like there's so many amazing I guess like things that you can use relics for. So like I would say like very common ones are Relic of the Monk, which is just insane healing power, right? And the other one, this is one that I think is very unique to Mesmer specifically, is Relic of the Flock. This has insanely good synergy with your mantra. So again, I'm kind of going with this under the assumption that you kind of know how Heal Chrono works, but typically people will bring Mantra of Recovery on Heal Chrono because that has amazing synergy with the Inspiration trait line. But in this case, right, this has a 10-second ICD where you're giving roughly 3,000 healing, and I guess it's healing now, but it also gives barrier. I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe the healing is barrier. I don't know what the tooltip is on about. But 10 seconds with about 3k block, and your mantra is on a 10-second cooldown, meaning that you are actually triggering Relic of the Flock over and over and over and over again. This is far better than I would say, for example, most other heal skills in the game, which hover around anywhere between 20 to 30 second cooldown instead. Okay, I guess this is like a little bit of an exception, but you can see the built-in one here, Tail of the Second Scion, this one has a 25 second cooldown, so it doesn't trigger Relic of the Flock quite as well. So I've always thought Relic of the Flock just works so well with the Mesmer that it always felt like a waste to take Relic of Febe instead. So taking this, it's just Relic of Febe, but better, because you get Endurance, which is similar to Well of Precognition on Chrono, and you have the possibility to give Super Speed, which is, to be honest, not that impactful, except for like, I would say very niche situations. So I'll just give like a very basic example, right? It's like, imagine like, I've been doing a lot of LCM prog with one of my groups right now. Having super speed to run off like mechanics and stuff, so like running off like the geysers to the edge of the arena and then coming back really quickly feels really good. It just feels like you have way more breathing room, and you're not, even if you like react late, you can usually still pass off that mechanic really quickly, right? So super speed in niche situations just feels really good. So basically this skill is just Relic of Febe, but better, which is why I'm determined to make it work, just because I'm really attached to the idea of making Relic of Flock work. Yeah, so that's that one. Now we'll go over some of the other ones now. So this, I've been calling this one Relic of the Plant Guy because that's what he is. So this one is, I'll be honest, when I first saw it on the like previews and everything, I thought, wow, this is crazy, right? Like, not only is it giving resistance, it's giving barrier, it can group break stun and all that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna be honest, after playing it for a little bit, it's actually a little bit less, it was a little bit underwhelming. It wasn't as overwhelming as I thought it would be. So I think this is another situation where in niche situations, it can go really hard. I think the most powerful part about this skill is the group stun break. I think group stun break is relatively rare, give or take, in yours 2 support classes. I can think of a couple, like, you know, Protect Me or something like that on Ranger, for example, but there's not that many things for it. And I can see like certain situations where getting stunned is like a really bad thing. Maybe this has a lot more usage in PvP, for example, but in PvE, I'm thinking like, you know, the Largos bubbles or something like that right before a CM mechanic happens. I can see a world for it, but I don't know if I would run this all the time, because I was actually doing some math here on the protection. At first I thought like, oh, maybe protection uptime is gonna be a little bit weird, because the only really big source of it is gonna be your F2 in combination with this one right here, and the math checks out where it just barely lasts long enough with a 3 clone F2. But the thing is, with this, for example, Crescendo being able to constantly extend the duration of your boons, I actually don't think it's nearly as big of a deal as I thought it was. And then on top of that, actually, this is just a small tidbit for people to know, because a lot of people didn't know this. On Mesmer Chrono, this is a Chrono specific thing, because Chrono actually changes your F1 through 4 skills, even though functionally they play very similarly. On F2, on Heal Chrono, every time a clone hits a target, it actually reduces the cooldown. So this has 25 seconds, but with 3 clones, that's a 9-second recharge, right? So that's 16 seconds instead, assuming that all 3 of your clones hit. And then on top of that, then with improved alacrity, so Chrono specifically has access to the improved alacrity trait. That means that your F2 comes off of cooldown roughly every 10 seconds or so, right? So that means that the duration of the protection on here is just way more comfortable. And I was thinking like initially, right, with Troubadour, since you don't have that cooldown reduction, the timing would be a little bit tight. But after messing around with it a little bit, I think it's fine. I personally don't see super huge use for this unless you have something specifically that you want with the resistance or the stun break. I think another really good point of like, I guess, comparison here is that this also gives barrier under, like, you know, if you chain your F3 into your tail of the plant guy, the barrier here is 3.7k on a 30-second cooldown. That's technically less, right, than the flock spam with your heal relic, because that was like roughly 3k every 10 seconds. So at that point, I feel like if you're doing this specifically for the barrier, you're genuinely, I think, again, biases here, I think you're better off just taking tail of the Swiftness and then using flock relic instead. So my kind of thoughts on that. And then Tail of the Scarlet, I think this one I didn't even bother really messing around with too much. I think this is definitely a much more DPS coded skill. I could see a world where you take it for the CC, but I feel like Mesmer already just has a ton of really good CC options with, like, you know, MOA, or in this case, I have Technobabble. That's why I'm on my Asura right now. You have things like Domination Signet and, like, you know, you already have your baked in F3 and everything. I don't think this one will have that much use specifically for support Mesmer. And then now, kind of reiterating this one, because I talked about this one a lot at the beginning, distortion share is just crazy. Honestly, I don't even need to talk about this one more. This one is just crazy. I think it'll be really, really powerful. I just now talked about taking Moa or something instead. I think in a lot of situations, I would rather just take this elite skill and then bully my teammates into bringing more CC if they needed a Moa. I feel like this skill is just really, really, really strong. Yeah, so that's like my thoughts on, like, just in general the skills and like everything. I think the traits are honestly pretty straightforward. I feel like they're very powerful, don't get me wrong. They're not boring by any means, but I feel like the build kind of built itself, so to speak, right? Especially for a support point of view, right? So if you just compare between these, right, like this one just makes the most sense. If you're a support and your primary role is to give 100% Boon uptime, having the Boon duration increase just kind of makes sense, right? So you could take this for more CC if you wanted to, or you could take this for DPS, but that's not really the role of like a support person, right? And then this is just great, right? More damage, more healing, great. Woo! Okay, and then this one is like, again, this is more damage, not really something you're focusing on a support. This one, I was like thinking maybe this could be interesting, right? Where it's like you can actually recharge the instrument so that they're up more often. And I was thinking like that could make, I would say, for example, in this case, I was talking about that this one makes the whole build a little bit more comfortable. You could take this one and then this would also make your build more comfortable. But then I was reading this one and I was like, wait a second, never mind. I take back everything I said because you need this for Alacrity, right? So it's like, I could see maybe a world in like, in a world versus world, for example, right? Where it's like you maybe don't need the boons and instead you need the effects of your tails more. You would take this instead. But for support, you would definitely take the Alacrity and Regen. Yeah. And then finally for the last one, honestly, okay, this is actually a very interesting one. This one is, again, very DPS coded, so not even going to go into that much. This one was actually, I think, a little bit misleading. And I want to go over this one a little bit because I did some testing to see exactly what it does. Ultimately, you can see I decided to go with Altered Chord instead. I think this one just in general, right? It's like more healing, more boons, more CC, more all of that kind of stuff, right? More cooldown reduction. This one is very interesting. And I want to kind of explain how it works because it was not clear to me at the start. So the really big thing here, right, is that when you have 3 clones, I'm just going to summon 3 clones here actually in combat. Oh, I'm fucking up. Don't worry about it. Okay. We reset. So if you play this one, a thing is going to appear that plays it again, right? So if I press this one, you can see I don't have the trait on. Brain fart. I'll clip this out of the video, or I won't. Maybe I'll just do this to show you guys, like, dude, my brain has a dent in it, okay? Please be kind to the elderly. Please be kind to the elderly. Okay, going back in. This time, take two. All right, okay. So you got this. I press this button. Am I tripping? Wait, it actually didn't do anything. Wait, hold on. I might have to cut this section out. I swear earlier there was a dude that spawned. That did something. So I have 3 clones and I press it now. Okay, that's actually a little strange. After image that plays the instrument. This might be a bug. I did have 3 notes. See, I have 3 notes. Did I not have 3 notes? I could have sworn I had 3 notes. But anyways, it's there. Maybe, okay, actually, you know what it might be? I played it while it was all still up. Oh, that's very interesting. So if I play it here, No, it's still up. I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut this up. First time you did. No, I know the first time I did not, but the second time I did. I swear I had the. Okay. Anyways, live and not scripted and everything. Woo. Okay. Here, if you play it, the after image spawns, right? And he's like back here, and he does the thing. The thing is here, it does the effect of the instrument, but it does not give the boons of the instrument. So in this case, it's not super obvious because you only get 5 stacks of might here, but I think it becomes a lot more obvious when you do the F4, right, to give alacrity. Because the original reason why I was thinking this could be super crazy is that you play it, you give the alacrity, your clone gives alacrity, and now you're super overcapped on alacrity and you never have to worry about like boons dropping and stuff. Unfortunately, that's not actually how this works. So for example, if I press my F4 here, you can see I get alacrity, but it only goes every 3 seconds, right? Again, for myself. And it only goes up by, moving this over, it only goes up by 3 seconds, which is exactly what the trait says here. So basically, the boon share of this skill is not shared, but the effect of the skill is. So I think the most obvious example, I think, is this one, because this is really big CC. So if I play this one, the CC goes off with the AoE, and then now this one, the CC goes off again. So again, I feel like this might be another situation where it's more PvP or world versus world coded, where you actually need the instrument itself to do the thing. Buster GG. Alright, okay, anyways, that's how that one is. So that's why I chose the traits that I did. Honestly, super self-explanatory. Again, the build kind of built itself in that sense. Now I'm just gonna walk over like why I took all of the other ones and everything here. So again, I'm very, very determined to make the swiftness guy work. I like to keep this one for stab because I think stability is one of the most busted, broken boons in the game. You can negate so many mechanics. You can negate knockbacks. You can just, the thing is with stability is that if you give stab, you're not just like making it so people can keep on doing their DPS rotations. It means that if they take damage, then they get hit by the, oh my gosh, like something happened, right? Now I can use my own heal skills, or I can use my own self-protection skills to then recover from that as well. So it's, I would say, like, you know, difference between Aegis and stability. Aegis kind of fully blocking one attack, but it only takes one hit, right? But stability will last for the duration as long as you have stability on your buff bar. So I think stability really broke it. That's why I'm very much, I think Mantra of Concentration is probably my favorite skill on base Mesmer, or no, probably not Mirage, actually. Mirage is DPS, but Chrono, Troubadour now, everything. Mantra of Concentration, very, very good. Then, like I said, I'm going to take Tale of the Soul Keeper just because it's more comfortable in case people are moving on and off of the group. It gives you some extra clones. It just makes the rotation a lot more forgiving, and I don't really have to think about it. And then I'm going to take this one, again, because Swiftness plus the Relic of Flock just has really good synergy and stuff because now you're not forced to take the Swiftness Relic. And then this one just kind of, again, very self-explanatory. Yeah. So, all right, okay. Let's see. Now talking about like what I would say like the general opener is. So again, this is very subject to change. This is just after tapping around on it and everything. First thing that you want to do, hopefully raids will just instantly recharge your notes. Similar to how like right now on Virtuoso, if you start a raid boss or if you start a fractal, if you start a strike mission or whatever, it will immediately recharge all of your blades from 0 to 5 or however many you have to 5. I'm really hoping that they do something similar with notes. I actually haven't tried this in an actual encounter yet, so maybe it does, I don't know. But before that, just for the sake of this golem, I'm going to summon the stuff really quick here. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention this. This is really nice. Your notes don't need a target. So you are no longer target gated. Actually, that's another really good point, I think, with Tale of the Soul Keeper. This can give boons without a target. This was one of the really big QOL things that I think Heal Chrono kind of suffered with, is like anytime there were phase down times and you didn't have anything that you could like summon your clones onto and that kind of stuff, you had to wait until the target spawned before you could start dumping all of the boons on your allies. You are no longer target gated. It's so that's just a really big QOL. So yeah, so we can start with this one. My tentative starting opener will be something like you want to start with a phantasm of some sort so you can get some clones later. So probably 4 F1 and then chain that into Tales of the Soul Keeper. And then I would finish this to F2 and then do this again here. So you have a 3 clone F4. Okay, actually, I kind of butchered that because I actually wasted one of my clones. I do think that the opener, like, technically is like, you can probably just button match. This was more for posterity. All right, cut. Take 2. All right, okay, we are in. We are so in. I guess with food buffs as well, it'll also help. But okay, so we start with this. And then we do this, and then this one. And then once you have 3 clones, you do this one. I just like whatever, and then you press this to extend all of the boons and stuff. And then let's say, oh no, there's like a one-shot mechanic happening and like VG's about to do greens and stuff. I'm just gonna, boom, now we like extend all the boons and reduce the cooldowns and all that kind of thing. So honestly, after this point, it's kind of just like a button mash as long as you have stuff open. Don't forget your swiftness. I'm not playing this super well, but this is kind of what I was saying before. I'm not really thinking about it, right? I'm super not thinking about it. I'm just kind of pressing skills as they happen, with or without whatever, and then I'm just keeping up 100% uptime on all of the stuff. There's probably a lot more finesse to actually playing this inside of an actual fight. But yeah, there you go. 25 stacks of might, regen, alacrity, protection, swiftness. You have a decent amount of vigor uptime as well. 100% fury. The quickness was added using the golem room setting and stuff here, so it's not like I'm giving myself quickness. Actually, wait. I guess this is another thing I wanted to talk about really quick, because I actually neglected to mention it in my heal chrono video, but I've talked about it a lot on stream, and I was debating making a YouTube short about it. So let me go take a couple steps back here. Let me start with Chrono with it. So let me just like put on the build here, and then I'll explain what exactly I'm doing with the build in just a second. So quickness, and then do this one, SOI here, and the other utils don't really matter. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put these on. So if I remove all of the boons on top of myself right now, on Chrono, actually, no, the one thing you do need is time warp. On Chrono, so this is on Chrono, this is on live, this is not on Troubadour right now. On live Chrono, you can keep up 100% quickness and alacrity uptime for roughly about 40 to 60 seconds, depending on how much boon duration you have. This already exists in the game. I remember seeing people talking about this, and Troubadour takes this to the next level. But let me again start with the Chrono discussion here. The reason why this works is because of blurred inscriptions. So if you look at this, and then you read specifically on Signet of Inspirations, increases the number of allied targets. And Signet of Inspiration previously, without this trait, would only extend the boons on yourself. So now you can extend the duration of all the active boons on yourself and your party members. So that means that by giving Time Warp through the Elite skill, this is a core skill, so it's not tied to an Elite specialization or anything, you can apply Quickness, apply Alacrity, and then keep on extending it over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I'll just do a quick demonstration here. Again, like I don't have 100% boon duration here, right? So I guess I could put on more if I wanted to. Where is the stuff here? This one, and I'll just use this one for now for more boon duration. It's not perfect, but I don't want to go buy some whatever the things are. So just kind of starting off here, right? Ramping and everything. I'm going to C-split, continuum split, and then I'm going to reset with Mimic, and I'm going to reset with Mimic again. And then now I just wait for this to come off cooldown. And you can see right now I have both quickness and I have alacrity, right? Once this comes off cooldown, I'm just kind of pressing whatever else here, extend it, and then you can also time warp again. So you can see this entire time, you can actually keep up both quickness and alacrity completely by yourself. This is with no help from the arena console right now. I want to talk about why this is kind of a catch and why I don't think it's as broken as people think it is. At least in the sense that it is not broken in the sense that you can solo be responsible for quickness and alacrity. I think that's a very bad idea. I think it is a good idea to use Signet of Inspiration to help your team out if they're struggling. So for example, in this case, let's say you're theoretically playing an alacrity heal support Chrono. Again, context we're talking about Chrono, not Troubadour. You're playing an alacrity heal Chrono. And your quickness DPS is still learning the fight, or they're still learning the class, and quickness uptime is kind of dropping a little bit, and like the DPS are getting a little bit fidgety because they're the rotations aren't working out super well. That's one of the situations where I will personally, I'll just quietly slip on the Signet of Inspiration with the trait change, especially in encounters that don't need that much of healing pressure, and I will just help patch in the quickness. Basically, I'm helping them out a little bit without being solely responsible for the quickness. And this context is really important because the thing is, extending boons is not the same thing as giving boons. I think this is a very, very important distinction to make. So the example here is if I drop Time Warp on top of the group, if you're standing in this Time Warp and I keep extending it over and over again, sure, this works out great. But what if somebody has to leave for mechanics, right? Like there's many fights where like, you know, at the beginning, people aren't exactly perfectly stacked. So I'll use Veil Guardian Terror as an example. If you're not doing mid-start stack and people are pulling the boss to the side of the wall, some people might run forward. Some people might start direct, like on the side and just wait for the boss to come over, right? So like there's countless examples of that. And if that happens, right? Let's say you drop the time warp and then somebody moves out of it. You are no longer getting quickness anymore. So that means if you're extending boons, you're not extending quickness. Okay, actually, in this case, I guess in this case it did because it gave me, that was actually a little bit, it gave me quickness just by chance here, and then it extended. Oh, actually, wait. It's repeatedly giving it. I think maybe this thing is bugging out or something. Just removing the boons here again, right? But if you do this, and I don't have quickness, and I extend it now, you can see it's not, you can't extend something that you don't have. So, basically, this is all the preface for now saying, if I were to swap to Troubadour, right? And I do the exact same technology with time warp instead. So if I were to respawn the golem, put this one on here, and then put on this one, and then I take this trait, and then I take SOI or something instead, right? Like maybe Mimic as well, right? Now you can do it even more because now your crescendo will also increase the number of targets that you have, right? So again, just kind of like starting, oh my God, I almost did the Chrono start and everything instead, but just doing all of this, extending it. Okay, I butchered that. Sorry, I'm not super good at this class yet. But hopefully, like, the concept is still the same, right? So you could do this to super help out with, like, the quickness of your group. But I really do not think that it is a reliable source to solo be responsible for all quickness in the group. That was super scuffed. I'm so sorry. Anyways, okay, so TLDR, right? So scroll to the end of the video. I'll probably put like a timestamp right here in case people just want like the big TLDR. Troubadour, very strong. This would probably, let me change everything back over. This is probably going to be the build that I recommend to people. Feel free to tweak it based off of things that you heard earlier in the video. How you play it, basically, you just want to keep on summoning clones, cast your F1, F2, F4, and F5. I think those are probably the biggest prio ones with as many clones as you can. Ideally 3, but 2 is like serviceable.
Get scammed.
Get scammed, you freaking know. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. And then your F3, I would primarily use that for CC, or you can use it just if you want to because you have nothing else to press. Generally, priority system is your F4 is probably highest priority because that's your primary alacrity source. F2 is your priority because, or second priority because that's your primary protection source. And then everything after that is just extending the boons and patching in everything else. So swiftness, might, fury, regeneration, all that kind of good stuff. For the gear, you're going to want, honest, I always tell people this, healing gear is very flexible. You just run whatever it is that you need. My standard, because I tend to do a lot of tanking for groups that I'm in, I run full minstrels because minstrels is a very efficient stat set when you have toughness for tanking, you have vitality for survivability, and you have healing power and concentration. Super comfortable stat set here. I typically run full minstrels with Rune of the Monk, and then weapons with transference and concentration. The concentration I'll often switch in and out. For example, if I need CC, I'll run Sigil of Paralyzation. If I need, I don't know, just like, if I just want like the splashing water heal, I can just say Sigil of Water. There's a lot of options for you here. And then finally for the relic, again, with this build, I talked about it a lot earlier in the video. I would recommend Relic of the Flock and then get your swiftness source from this Tale of the Honorable Rogue instead. Typically with other healers, if you don't have access to like minstrels or all this kind of stuff, I would say, for example, you could run full harriers. That's totally fine. You won't have toughness, so you won't really be able to tank unless other people in your squad can just guarantee that they have very low toughness and you can slip on like a piece of toughness gear here or there. You can also run full givers to go the complete other side where you're literally only hardcore sending on toughness, so nobody can possibly steal the tank from you. Even those like pesky trailblazer scourges or people on like weird builds that are here to grief your squad. You can just run full givers for that instead. Yeah, so that's basically it. Hopefully that was like informational. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if there's anything else. Again, super like disclaimer here. I'm sure things are subject to change, especially once people actually take this into live fights and they can actually play it in the context of a fight and not just a theoretical sort of situation in the golem room. Things might change between beta and release, all that kind of good stuff. Please don't sue me, okay? All right, thanks.